Hello everyone and welcome back to Planet Coaster. I have been working on something new for you guys over the past few days, and this is going to be my attempt at a full park. It has been a little while, probably since we've last worked on the Elite Dangerous Park. The last full park we have completed was actually all the way back when we were working on the Renaissance Fair Park. So what I'm going to do this episode is work on a lot of foundational elements that I'm going to use to help scale and also give some character to this park that's a little bit more different than what I'm more or less used to. So I got this idea from watching Cleve TV here on Twitch, and he's a really good creator. You guys could actually go check him out if you want. And he was working on some sort of parking lot for a park that he wanted to make. And I thought that was just a really cool idea. Now, I know, other people have done this before. It's not, 100% original thing, but it is a cool idea nonetheless that I think people should try once or twice if they so desire. Now, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out just the placement of this initial road. And this initial road here is the kind of ticket booth you have to go through to park your car and to actually start accessing the park. And this whole section that I'm making and working on over here is a small thoroughfare that's going through some parking lots, and it'll also have and feature a few bus stops and stations once we're completed here. Maybe even I might build a multi-story parking garage. I'm not quite sure, but that's up to you guys if you want to see it and if you think it fits the overall theme. Now, the overall theme for this park is going to end up being multiple themes and locations, mainly real world themes like Asian themes. You're going to see some Western themes, probably, maybe some Egyptian, things that we have covered before and that I have a little bit of practice in. Nothing too crazy or outlandish, but hopefully enough variety to keep this whole park interesting throughout the whole build process. And so I won't get burned out as I did last time, as I think building the same theme set over and over can get a little dry after so long. But here, just doing some different concrete colors for the actual parking lots themselves. We will be going in and detailing this whole area out, adding, lines for the vehicles, adding parking spots, lighting posts, flags, things that you'll see at these large centers of business like this. You're going to get a massive parking lot with some sort of numbering system so that you can find your car later. Now, Planet Coasters doesn't have the biggest map size in the world. I mean, granted, it is fairly large, but a lot of this parking lot would need to be a lot bigger. And so I'm going to be doing some tricks here by making the roads go underground in certain spots, basically to tell a story that, this is just the close to parking, and if you want some additional parking lots, you're going to have to be bussed in from even farther away. So, that way it's a little bit of a loophole to get around that, and I think it works well enough. It also gives a good reason to have exit points going in and out of the park the way we do. We will have some overpass elements, we will have some underpasses, and hopefully we'll be able to detail this whole area out and just make it look really nice as we go forward. Now, this is the first section of the park, and we're going to spend a lot of time actually not making a park for a bit, and it's a little different than say what we're used to. Also, it took a long time to kind of just test a lot of this stuff. One, I'm not great with the pathing tool. Like, I'm okay, I kind of understand it, but you can see even here I'm just struggling to place a sidewalk over the main road. And originally I wanted the peeps to travel straight from the entryway, kind of cross the highway, have maybe a little bus station here, so it makes sense that they're actually coming from this direction. Over time, we ended up kind of changing that up a little bit, like in theory, it would have worked and probably would have been done pretty well, but adding some some different ways to get into the park, I think, is going to be more beneficial than what it is now. We're also going to add additional parking. Back here in that top right corner, I might end up putting the actual parking garage. I think that would be a good spot for it. Also, the reason I also don't want to do the kind of entrance to the park down there is that it's quite a long ways for the people to walk to actually get into the park itself. That was a long sidewalk. There wasn't going to be any shops for them to visit or anything like that. So I felt like it would have been better to change it up a little bit. And so we're going to go ahead, expand the bus route, and actually get the underpasses built through here and make it look, one, a little bit more interesting because you're introducing some changes in height. You're adding some more interesting road layouts than just a flat road through here. But, it's one of those things. Rides don't have collisions anymore since the 1.2 update. Roads still do. And, I think that maybe the next time they go in and update the game, I hope to see that the pathing tool gets a little bit of an overhaul and becomes a little bit more user-friendly, because I would love to make some more custom and interesting pathways that you wouldn't be able to do right now, which is how the game works. Like even making a curved bridge is pretty hard in itself, and it just doesn't really curve in a smooth manner. The way that I fix that, and tips to help curb that issue, is simply try and extend the length of the piece of path that you're trying to place down as long as it can for the corner, and get that to be placed in one smooth kind of motion. And that's going to make it a little bit more smooth. It's going to also just make it look like a longer fluid curve, hopefully. At least that's the theory behind it. Trying to get these to go up gentle slopes as well. Planet Coaster doesn't do that to an amazing degree. I mean, it does, but it's just going to have some bumps, and I think we'll eventually go back in and just smooth this whole area out. Here you can see I'm using those longer curves, like I said, and that's going to give us a different look. I also want to end up kind of adjusting these bridges and overpass kind of sections a little bit so that, you don't get that awkward transition from it going over the terrain. And also to change the curve just a bit to make that look just a little bit more fluid and things like that. I'm not great with road layouts and planning like this, but I don't really necessarily have to worry about cars actually driving on these, though I do plan on making the main thoroughfare here, the widest road, actually be part of a go-kart track eventually. I don't know quite how I want to do it yet, but I think that's going to add a sense of traffic to the lower section, because the lower section isn't actually going to have any of the park elements. If I get some movement via the go-karts, I think that's going to be an interesting trade-off, at least, to help sell that traffic can go up and down these areas. And using these underpass kind of sections, kind of where it goes back underground, it's kind of where I'm thinking that would be good for the actual go-kart and how it kind of gets through this area without having to, say, drive through the exterior wall of the park itself. So, adjusting things, and over time, you kind of get used to how the path tool behaves, and, I do increase my speed. It really kind of, the initial step here was trying to come up with some sort of interesting layout that will also somehow feasibly accommodate this bus route that I'm making. It's probably not even a realistic or efficient bus route here, but I think it is about as good as I could probably make it. I'm not really a City Skylines player, but maybe I should. Maybe that'll give me some practice that I need to make these areas, and it could be fun to play that game as well. Just wish I had a faster PC to do it. And here is today's main structure. As you can see, we spent 10 wonderful minutes building and laying out these roads, hanging out, and now we get into the meat of the first episode. And this is the kind of ticket booth, toll road-esque kind of structure that the guests will come through to get their parking pass, pay for their parking pass, and also they can exit out the right side. This is going to be a symmetrical building, at least in one direction. So we'll be able to use copy and paste to a pretty good degree. So I'm just going to end up building half of this. Currently, I'm kind of gray boxing it in. If you guys don't know what gray boxing is, I do have a tutorial series explaining kind of my build process. And it basically comes down to, I don't know what I want to build until I start slapping some pieces down and kind of working off itself until it is finished. So I use a lot of these gray shapes and rough in the basic proportions and dimensions of my building, and then from there I'm able to just start adding detail on top of it. We're going to have about 6 total lanes here, and they are about 11 to 12 feet wide in the game, which is about the width of a normal street for a car. And you know, I kind of lucked out there, and it is it's one of those things that I should have checked before making the actual asset, but I knew scale would have been constrained anyways, just because I don't want to spend more than half the park size laying out a parking lot. It just seems like not so much of a park at that point, it's more of a car lot at that point. So that's why, you know, I'm okay even if it is slightly smaller to scale than maybe it needs to be. Gonna be adding some icing fences here, and this is just a door turned upside down. You can kind of get a chain link fence effect by doing this. Kind of wish it was a bit of a tighter weave to it, but it's okay. It is what it is. I also haven't really kept up with the part count change with the new Planet Coaster update, so I'm going to eventually find some parts later on that I didn't know existed, and we'll end up using it. We're also going to make some kind of crash barrels here, just so, you know, if anyone does end up taking this turn too quickly, they don't instantly die from hitting that sharp point of concrete. And this is just made out of the custom scenery objects, nothing too special here. We're also going to make a cone variant because cones are pretty cool, and then you can just kind of place them around. They're a good way to add a bunch of detail in a relatively quick way. So we're going to have cones, and then that's going to predetermine where our lanes are. Our lanes are going to be marked by the side of some shapes as well. We're going to color these white and orange respectively, and hopefully space out some cones through here, just to make sure everyone knows these lanes are something they need to keep in mind and pay attention to as they approach this gate. We're gonna have center lines here, so it looks like each avenue is going to be a 4-lane, 2 in each direction, and then we'll have a center dividing line. We'll have a white edge line that shows, you know, that the edge of the road is right here. I am from the US, so people are going to be driving on the right side of the road. So people from Britain, you're out of luck. I'm sorry. Our country's better than yours, but that's okay. That's okay. It's just we drive on the correct side. You guys not so much, but, you know, go ahead and write me a letter about it if you want. We are going to keep adding all these pretty cool small details, and the nice thing about using these larger shapes for this is the fact that they don't deload from far away. So even when I pull out, you can actually see these things from afar, and it does create a pretty cool effect, and I'm pretty happy with how that turns out. We're going to change the concrete kind of bases here to orange color, a little bit more of a slow down kind of sharp color to the eyes so that, you know, people can pay attention. And we will be working on adding some signs to these little overhangs. And, you know, I got a great suggestion when I was working on the Loch Ness Monster, and I didn't know this, that you can actually just slightly embed a sign into an object so that only the text is visible. And that is what we're doing here. We're going to have 2 credit card lanes and 1 cash only lane. So if you have cash, go ahead and feel free to use the right farthest lane. I'm also going to add some lights here, some green lights and red lights depending, so that you know which gates are open and easy to use at that point. We're going to decorate the roof line over these stalls. I'm liking this blue trim. You know, I'm not really often using blue in my builds, but it feels right for this one. It feels a little bit modern. It feels maybe slightly in the late 80s, early 90s, something pastel-like in color. And we're also mixing different colors together. So we're using the modern white, the modern black. We're using some blues, some dark blues, these oranges with the cones and warning lights. We are just throwing everything we can at this building, and hopefully you guys can expect this level of detail throughout the whole build as a whole. And that's the plan, you know. I want this to be the best park that I've made, and also probably the only park that I'm going to make. Parks take a lot of time, and time is one of those things that, one, I don't have much of to begin with, but also I think after making one park, at that point we'll just go back to builds, because one-off builds just are a little bit more streamlined. We're going to light the area. You know, we need some street lamps here. I'm also going to try and light these signs. However, because the object is slightly embedded into it, you'll see the text is blacked out during the nighttime. This is actually a little bit of a Z fighting bug. I mean, we are kind of using a bug to make the text appear on a non-sign, so I guess that's the trade-off you have to go with as you go forward. But if you guys know any fixes for that, let me know in the comments down below. As always, we are now working on this caged area to the right, and each kind of building on the left or right side is going to be like a small office for the kind of toll booth itself. I'm calling it a toll booth. It's a ticket booth, but to me it just looks totally like a toll booth, and that just kind of what I'm calling it at this point. We are also going to make some concrete panels, because looking online, these governmental buildings and things, they look more like molded concrete rather than anything too fancy. And if you leave small little gaps here in the concrete itself, you can create some depth lines in there and make it look maybe a little bit more pressed concrete, or possibly something that has some molding in there to hold it all together. A little bit of an access door over there, and we are using one of the new fairy tale base bottoms for a pillar to do a nice tiled floor, and a chain link kind of fence gate here. I'm going to use a proper metal chain here. This is a new item in the game to create somewhat of a hinge looking object on there. Here I've noticed that this is where all the new custom fence pieces are, and so we're going to be using that for this median divider. And there's also some cloth on there so that, you know, people aren't rubbernecking quite as much. That's what you kind of run into when you have these two kind of busy lanes next to each other. You know, if someone causes a little fender bender, everyone on the other side are going to look across and slow down and see what's going on for themselves, and that's just going to create traffic on the other lane when it's not needed at all. And that's kind of what we're going for. Now, since each side, you know, is going to be a little bit different, one, of course, on each side is going to be no entry. The right side, coming from the right lane, is going to be the exit side, so that's why I changed all of them. We are combining a little bit of a metal blue side building on to this side as well. You know, maybe this one is, say, the official kind of larger office section for the toll road. No, it's not a toll road. I keep saying toll road, and because that's just kind of my reference material, but it is totally a ticket booth. Uthris is totally a ticket booth. It is 1 a.m, and I am recording this, and I have work in the morning. So, hey, this is what you'll get when I'm really tired. We're gonna go ahead and put this on here. Gonna add some railing as well, just so we have some airy kind of vertical elements on top, and some windows. We'll add some additional kind of toll booth elements here in a moment after I kind of figure out what kind of plaza stonework element I need to seal off this right side. It's going to have a metal gate that we will end up kind of doing like a sliding metal door that might be electronically open. We'll use some red brick just to mark the edge of that to make it look a little bit more fancy. Continue fixing the white stripes onto the road surface itself. Each side is slightly different, and I think that's just kind of how the pathing tool works in Planet Coaster. You're going to have some variance as you go through and try and make a perfectly symmetrical path like this, but you know, it's worth the time to go back in and make sure everything is a little bit unique to itself so that there's nothing drastically different. Now, we are working on the actual structures the people will be paying into and getting their tickets. Now, normally in a toll road or a ticket booth like element such as this would say have a person inside manning these things, and so that's what they're kind of modeled after. However, it is, in my opinion, a little too small to do that, so I think I'll end up going back in and putting a little bit of a computer screen in these so that it looks the part, you know, like a classic kind of, hey, people used to stand in these, but it's now the year 2017. We're going to replace it with an electronic system, but keep the looks. That way, you know, theme parks can look a little campy. And we'll just end up copying this all the way through to the other stations, and that kind of completes the overall look. So I'm going to go add some greenery to this off camera, and then we'll just transition straight into the real-time look. I hope you guys enjoy and are look forward to this massive build that I am undertaking. And here we go. Okay, so welcome to the ticket booth for the parking lot of Alpine Odyssey, which is kind of the placeholder name I have going right now for our park, because Odyssey, of course, refers to Homer's Odyssey, but also we're in the Alpine region, so kind of just mashing two words together at this point. If you guys have any suggestions on names, go ahead and let me know that. But for now, let's just take a look at this ticket booth and see what you guys think. So we have the road markers here. We have our pretty cool median. And we're using plenty of different materials together to get this effect. And I think that's why, in my opinion, it is successful. You know, you got rough stone, smooth stone, you got actual wooden planks here, you got modern metal items going along, and some traditional elements as well. So we got quite a lot of area left to detail, but this is basically the beginning theme, at least for the parking area and the initial kind of southern area of the park. So, you know, we're going to have some sparse vegetation in between and near this highway, some taller tree elements as you get close to, like, say, structures and things. That way they kind of balance each other out. And we'll, of course, throw in some rocks and things just to help transition from the ground into the greenery. And this is just tips and tricks that, you know, you just kind of pick up over time. I've been playing Planet Coaster for over a year now, and it is just a magnificent game. It's just really amazing on what all you can make just with a coaster simulation. So this is the ticket booth kind of area. We have, you know, wrong way signs so people don't go down the entryway. We have all the exit signs lit up. I'm sure they would open or close them depending on how much traffic they are getting. We also have a bunch of cones. I do like the little cones. They're not quite, you know, super realistic, but sometimes it's the thought that counts in Planet Coaster, and not so much the execution. We got, you know, some just cool road elements, you know. This makes me think of City Skylines when I was working on here. So maybe we can eventually pick up that game on the channel, I think, and I can... So, we have large area to detail out. A lot of it's going to be kind of tree space. A lot of it's going to be a lot of this road work kind of going through here. We can even put some cones to block off some parking and open up some parking depending on how many guests are currently at the park. That's something that happens in Renaissance fairs a lot. We got overpass kind of areas, and these can be placeholders because the angles on these bridges are not really correct. This is like a 30-degree slope straight into curved and a little bit more smooth. You're gonna have a long bus carrying a bunch of people, and you don't want that to go up and down this bridge. So this is more or less kind of just a placeholder, and I'll end up probably making something a little bit more custom here. We'll also end up making a lot more, say, custom supports for the underpass kind of section in this area, and we'll have to build up some vertical walls so that the cliffside looks a little bit more supported than it currently does. We got the potential first opening plaza, and this is going to be the large kind of bus stop location for the guests to unload and enter the park. At this point, we're going to have kind of a first section here that's going to be a little bit more of a classic Main Street area, just to greet the guests and give them something to do right off. So you can see we are using up a good chunk of the park, but I'm happy that we still have plenty of room to probably accomplish everything that I want to set out for myself. So if you guys have any feedback, suggestions, name ideas, you name it, let me know in the comments down below. If you guys enjoyed Planet Coaster, leave a like, and if you guys are looking forward to this park, share it with your friends and show the love down below. So until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.